If you are a procrastinator, just one thing at a time. Focus on that one thing, even the small things. I always recommend kill all the small things first.
Hmm.
If you're that type of person, like if you are more feelings driven, that'll build that momentum for you. Just build up the momentum, win in the small ways, and then when it comes to the big things, you win in that. And when you start finishing what you started, not only do you see the fruits, but then you also, like for me, I also look back and be like, wow, how many people did I miss an opportunity to serve because of my procrastination?
Yeah.
How many people, could have been freed up? How many, children or parents? I always think back in that frame of like, not because I regret, waiting this long, but I look at it like, wow, like let's help someone else so they don't get stuck in the same circles, procrastination circles, or cycles, I should say, that you did.
Happy Wednesday, family. Welcome to another episode of the Getting the Win Show. I'm your host, Melissa Thomas. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. And if this is your first episode, welcome. You are in for a great one. I'm interviewing someone who is growing very quickly in on the video side of the personal development space. He's been involved in personal development for over 2 decades. His name is Rhyan Ramirez, better known as Bro Rhy. Or Rhy for those who know him personally. But this interview today is going to be highly empowering and informative for you. If procrastination is your struggle, he's here to bring it out of you. You know what I mean? Like he has the solutions you need. And by the way, this interview is so meaty that you're getting 2 parts. So stay tuned to this episode, which is part 1, and we'll bring you even more meaty goodness next week with more of his tips and stories and, just impact that he has to share with all of you as well. So it was a blessing for me. I know it's going to be a blessing for you. Check out this interview. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Getting the Win Show. And as promised, the one and only Rhy Ramirez, Bro Rhy. He
What's
has
up?
got,
What's up,
what's
y'all?
up? Yeah, finally got the chance to get Bro Rhy on the show. As you guys saw on episode 3, we were able to also interview Raymond Jones, the other half of the Road to Results podcast. These guys are phenomenal. Again, if you're not subscribed to their show, do that. Subscribe on YouTube and be sure to make that request to join the Facebook group as well. Doing big things over there. So real quick, Rhy, just heading straight into it. Obviously, you're branded up. You've got the Reach Academy stuff going on. So talk to our audience about Reach Academy and what they can expect when they contact you or the company.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up, y'all? My name is Bro Rhy, also known as Rhyan Ramirez. And Reach Academy actually was, part of our mastermind. It was the 10-year goal. It was the audacious goal. So Reach Academy is actually still in the developing stages. The idea is there, the concept is there, all of the parts are there. The DBA is there. So in terms of doing the paperwork and having it, but basically Reach Academy is a program under one of my LLCs that is a program helping facilitators, speakers who want to authentically engage and reach their audience. And the foundation of what we do at Reach Academy is we focus on actually building emotionally intelligent leaders. So the whole part of our program is building your EQ so that you can authentically be yourself. And then we share the tools, the strategies, the mechanics on how to facilitate a room or be in a space, whether it's small group to, big groups to conferences, whatever it might be. However you deliver, however you speak, however you connect with your audience, our entire mission is really to just help you grow your reach authentically by, again, just by starting with reaching in and reaching out. So it's this inward process, and then we bring that out into your audience or to those you're serving.
Awesome. And I mean, to that point, share with the audience your backstory. Because first of all, you got brands on brands on brands on brands. So like Reach Academy is the one you landed on, which is amazing. But kind of talk about that journey to reach that decision to finally narrow the focus to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give a little context on my background, I have 11 years of adult mental health. I was working in California at Napa State Hospital, yep, where they make all the wine. And I was doing it with, I was working with the adults there and doing medications, treatments, all those things. And I started thinking to myself, like, wow, right? A lot of the folks who end up in places like mine, just had a bad road, like getting there, had a bad road getting there. So, giving, medications and treatments, I would always tell myself, like, no one grows up saying, I want to be schizophrenic or I want to be bipolar. So I said to myself, what if we can do some preventative work and let
Hmm.
me see if I can give back that way. So I started doing high school youth ministry. And so when I was doing high school youth ministry at the church that I was at, I realized like actually them coming to me every Sunday or whenever we would meet up, I realized they actually got a lot more going on already at high school that needs to be
Hmm.
unpacked. Like the hearts were hardened, the conditioning was conditioned, and the mindset was already stuck. So I was like, okay, let's see. And again, and they're still they're still formable or still, still able to make some impact. But I had an opportunity to work in elementary schools, kinder through fifth grade, and some
Hmm.
middle schools doing social emotional learning, which is under the emotional intelligence umbrella since 2014. So I
Wow.
started doing elementary school work all over the Bay Area. I partnered with a nonprofit, soulshop.org. And it was a great opportunity for me to just share self awareness tools, self regulation, empathy, healthy communications tools, restorative practice tools, all of that. And so I was like, okay, this is cool. Like I look at our work as that 1 ounce of prevention. That's always better than the 1 pound of cure, which is that we were trying to give at Napa State Hospital working with adults. So for the past 20 years, since 2004, I've been in the mental health space, starting with adults and now working with, elementary school students and everyone in between. And so when I started thinking more and more, even in my ministry work, I was like, okay, well, if they got a lot going on just in their life in general at school and at home, if we could help them unpack that and give them the tools so that when they do come to church or when they do come to youth ministry or youth group that, right, like they're not completely like free and clear of all the stress and drama, but they know how to manage their feelings and emotions and their behavior so they can get the lesson plan, so they can catch what God is trying to get them to catch when they come on Sundays. And that's when I said, okay, what can I do so that I can actually bring both of the worlds, my SEL work, my faith based work. And I put a program together in 2019 and I started sharing that full circle program, that full accompaniment program, working in private schools and still into some elementary schools, public schools as well. But it was this idea of, okay, I'm going to work with your students. I'm
Hmm.
going to give the language and the training with your teachers so we can continue that conversation in the classroom. And then we're also going to support the parents and provide them the language as well. Because a lot of the work I do in schools are tier 1 intervention. Right, so
Wow.
just creating the language, we're just creating culture, and how can we get everyone on board? Just to number one, more importantly, create a language that we can connect with our kids and our students, and then just really let them be seen and heard for who they are and as they are. And so really that's how Reach Academy started. So I've been doing it for 20 plus years in my own right, starting with, again, the emotional intelligence piece for me is where my heart is aside from evangelizing. So I said, let's see if we can go ahead and really share just as a practitioner. So I'm just sharing everything that I've been doing, all the mechanics, all the techniques aside from all the EQ work. And we said, hey, Reach Academy, come in, reach out. So the goal is by the time you leave, not only will you have a better understanding of yourself in terms of how you can show up as your most authentic self to those you serve and to your family and your friends, but also how you can use that and recognizing, like we talk about every time and time again, your superpower so
Hmm.
you can really reach your audience, reach your students, reach your kids, because there's teach, preach, and reach. Right? Teach is
Nice.
giving that information,
Hmm.
preach is telling them they better do this or else, and reach, right, is like with the real learning where we just ask the right questions. And yeah, so it's, I mean, I teach the whole pedagogy, like we break it down in the academy, and we really just, very simple small steps. It's not a quick program, it's not an overnight get get emotionally intelligent quick type program. It is a process. It is a process, but I believe in it. I'm a product of it, and I want to just take that out into the world in the only way I know how, in my most authentic way.
Absolutely. So that's actually the perfect transition because I was going to ask you in terms of being a man of faith, and obviously you incorporate that into the Road to Results podcast, you incorporate it into the work that you do. Kind of talk about how you use your faith to inform the decisions you make in terms of the clients that you serve or like the schools that you serve. Kind of talk about how you build that into it. Like, all right, these guys, I might not vibe with them. Appreciate them reaching out to me, but I might not vibe with them. Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to the saying, right? You want to serve everyone, but you can't. I mean, you want to market to everyone, but you can't serve everyone, right? It
Right.
goes back to this idea like there's 8 billion people on the planet, and I believe in the scripture, right? Going into the scriptures, John, all right, in John, we talk about the 153 large fish. It's
Mm,
one of my favorite messages where Jesus like cast a net, trust, and then he was Simon Peter was fishing all night, didn't catch anything at all. And then all of a sudden, Jesus like, did you catch anything? Right, that's his sense of humor. And he was like,
mm,
yo, cast it on the right side of the net. I mean, cast it on the right side of the boat. 153 fish. Of course, me like again, just in my own just like curiosity, what's 153? And what it represented was at the time, Greek zoologists, they cataloged 153 different types of fish,
mm-hmm.
which for me was like one of every kind.
Right.
So that meant, and the way that told me was, okay, we're all in that. We all have our own net. We all have our own style. We all have, a way of being fishers of men, fishers of women. So at the end of the day, once I really grasped that concept, I said, okay, people who will rock with you, who will naturally vibe with you, who you are just have so much in common with, like who you're meant to reach, you'll reach. And it's
Yeah.
okay if you don't reach the rest because of 153. So I know there's people I'm gonna reach that maybe you might not be able to reach. There's people that you're gonna be able to reach that and that's all a part of it. And so the whole mindset and the whole mentality is an abundance mindset. And so
Man.
when I think about who I work with and how I collaborate, like number one, start with where I'm most comfortable and natural. And I say comfortable not because I want to be complacent,
Yeah.
because people will see me online, they'll see me on Instagram, they'll see me on Facebook, or they hear of me.
Mm-hmm.
And what they know of me is what more likely they're going to want. So, and again, this is in real time, in real time. Recently, I went to a school and I was doing one of the adult services, and the feedback hit me hard, right? But again, my assessment allows me to like learn how to take feedback in a positive way and or in a constructive way. And the word that was used was underwhelming.
Oh,
Yes, underwhelming.
that's a
And
gut punch.
so yes, the old me would have just been like all in my feelings and super like sad and would have gave up and quit, or just I would have just, I don't know, I probably would have overreacted or been super defensive. But then I took a step back and I was like, okay, let's look at it, because I was there the whole day. Out of the all the events and things I did at that school that day, everything was great except for that one part, that one section. So I looked back and I was like, well, what was different? And I was like, oh, I went into teacher mode. I
Ah.
went into like workshop mode.
Mm-hmm.
I went into like I'm breaking the steps down mode. But this is my first exposure to this school and to these adults, and they all they see is what they see is online.
Mm.
And so the expectation, what I learned was that's what they're paying for. That's what they want. That's what they're calling for. Not to say that the other stuff isn't important, because it is, but in my own learning, it was like, oh, okay, this is what the people want. This is why they're calling it. This is what they know of. Now, if they see you in any other aspects or any other videos or things like that and they want that, then cool. But the principal actually tagged me in a video of one of my videos and said, this is who we want for the parent night next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I look at that and I go, okay, so what do they want? What are they really needing? What are they wanting? And then for there, if I can deliver whatever they're asking for comfortably, I'm starting there.
Gotcha.
And if I'm going to a space, again, in my own discernment, and Danielle and I, we discern every opportunity we get. we pray on it, we discern on it. Speaking of like how we let faith guide our steps in business and in life and in marriage, it really is like, okay, does this make sense to the plan? Does this is this going to reach, help us reach the goal to
Mm-hmm.
get more folks into the academy, or at least be exposed to it? Like if it's, we always talk about that tree trunk. If it's not going to contribute to developing a stronger tree trunk via the organization, via the messaging, via the audience, via the deliverables, then more likely we'll say, I'm probably not the one for you. However, and then if I have referrals, I'll just refer it out.
Awesome. And that makes sense. That makes sense. So with that said, you're somebody that still y'all stay busy. Both you and Danielle, y'all stay busy. So kind of talk about what obviously, the Getting the Win show is all about tackling procrastination. So what do you do to make sure that you remain as productive as possible each day?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, first and foremost, I just, remind myself of the difference of being urgent, of having a sense of urgency, and then rushing. So always
Ooh.
have a sense of urgency, right? So what I've learned in my time is if I rush, I make mistakes, things don't get done, I don't move the needle, and it makes things worse.
Okay.
But I still have to have a sense of urgency. I mean, we hear time and time again, like we are not going to we get 24 hours in a day like everyone else. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. Time is the one thing we can't get back. We hear all those things, but I really take that to heart. So for me now in my, my later years of my, like where I'm at in my life, I look back and wish I would have had more urgency,
Mm-hmm.
because all the ideas, I mean, I'll be honest, like a lot of the ideas that are just coming to fruition, God put that on my heart years ago, early 20s, mid 20s, early 30s. Now, was I mature enough to handle it? Maybe, maybe not. But I do know, one of the things that when it comes to procrastination, finish what you started.
Mm-hmm.
Finish what you started. So for me, that's the mentality and the mindset is like have a sense of urgency, because we're not promised tomorrow, and finish what you started. Like those are the two things that have helped me grow in these last 2 years of I would be the guy that would start, stop, start,
Mm-hmm.
stop, start, stop, and not get things done. And that actually just made things worse for me. So when I thought about, and then for me mentally, it would be like, okay, well, just do this. Or I would make excuses for myself, like, well, because I'm working on this, but I didn't finish that. And so Danielle, being a high pilot, right, for the flight assessment, for those who know the flight assessment, high pilot, she's like, why aren't you doing, just finish the one thing first? And my assessment as a high FA, as a high flight attendant, I'm going all over the place.
Pew, pew, pew,
And
pew, pew.
so procrastination, I believe, is the, what is the word we want to use, is the side effect, the side effect of not starting, or the results of not starting, of not finishing what you started. So for me, if you are a procrastinator, just one thing at a time, focus on that one thing. Even the small things, I always recommend kill all the small things first.
Mm-hmm.
If you're that type of person, like if you are more feelings driven, that'll build that momentum for you. Just build up the momentum, win in the small ways, and then when it comes to the big things, you win in that. And when you start finishing what you started, not only do you see the fruits, but then you also, like for me, I also look back and be like, wow, how many people did I miss an opportunity to serve because of my procrastination?
Yeah.
How many people, could have been freed up? How many, children or parents? I always think back in that frame of like, not because I regret, waiting this long, but I look at it like, wow, like let's help someone else so they don't get stuck in the same circles, procrastination circles, or cycles, I should say, that you did. And how can we pass that on? Which is why, again, wanting to build this or building this program and this community, we said global. We're trying to build a global network of emotionally intelligent leaders. So, but yeah, just honestly, finish what you started, have a sense of urgency. And I believe the last thing we had talked about was who's going to keep you accountable.
Yeah.
Can't do this on your own. And so I've been blessed where Danielle, she'll call me out. Like when she knows what's going on. Like even with our mastermind, she's like, "Oh, you didn't make the call this morning? What's up? What's going on?" Like every single time, she'll always check because we share each other's schedule
Hmm.
and we're on the same page. So I recommend if you maybe are someone who maybe don't have a spouse or a partner like that, just find someone who really cares about you enough to keep it real with you. So if you don't have a community, which we strongly recommend, find the person where you can sit down with them. And I remember actually E did this back in the days when I was one of his early programs, and I actually had Danielle's best friend, Casey. Shout out to Casey, and I sat with her because she was just straight up. She was real, and I said, "Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's the time frame I'm trying to do it, and here's how I could definitely use your support if you're open to it." And so she was checking in with me every week and and she wanted to see receipts, like she wanted to see it actually getting done, like all the things. And that right there was just for me as when he didn't have the community, was actually the next best thing. And then again, just treat every day like it's your last in a positive way, like in a I get to kind of way.
Hmm.
And really, I think that was really one of the bigger mindset shifts, right? Uncovering the mindset journey. That's what Road to Results is about. We're actually uncovering all the different ways our wiring has affected us and all the different ways our wiring has actually helped us in the things that Ray and I are doing. So super thankful for that platform to be able to, yeah, just to be able to share with people in real time, like what's going on with us. And then, of course, we're going to have more amazing guests. We actually have our episode coming out where you are at the tail end of that. So we got to make sure we get your full episode pretty soon. But yeah, that's all it is. I honestly would just say is like, we don't want to make it too deep, but don't have the mindset of like maybe tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
Don't wait, start today. Don't wait, start today.
absolutely. And one of the things that, to your point about the flight assessment, just so you guys are aware, Rye is a certified extreme execution coach. So am I. We've both been under the wings of ET the hip hop preacher, Dr. Eric Thomas. And one of the rules that we're taught in there is the they call it the 5 minute rule, but I've also heard it phrased as the 2 minute rule. If it can be done in 2 to 5 minutes, do it right now. Like,
That's it.
you know what I mean? To Rye's
That's
point
it.
about like the smaller tasks and the smaller wins that you can get, if that helps you build momentum, 2 to 5 minutes. If it can be done in 2 to 5, get it done right then. Get it done
That's
right
it.
then.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then also like when I think about procrastination, right? We hear it all the time and time again. We can let ourselves down, no problem. Right? It's easy to let ourselves down. So let's start with literally, and I tell myself, for me, it's my daughter and my wife and my soon-to-be grandbaby. I tell them like they suffer
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to finish what I started. They
Wow.
will be affected, and again, not just like in the money or the finances, but in the example.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm finishing my theology degree actually at the time of this recording next month, December 2023, right?
Nice.
And again, I started this 5 years ago, this journey. Finish what you started. But now that's like, okay, next piece is in January. I'm doing a just a Harvard certificate program on EQ. Just
Mm-hmm.
to key, I got a gap semester, and then I'm gonna do an IO psychology at Clemson after that.
Wow. Wow.
Just to continue the growing. And so if I don't demonstrate, like Ray and I talk about, if I don't demonstrate to my loved ones, if I don't show them like this is how we do it and finish what I started, then they will never finish what they started. Right. They'll look at me as again, as a leader in the role I have in my family. I have to show like this is what we do. Let's finish what we started. So I tell myself every day I don't finish something or I don't complete the task, I go all the way to the third next generation, baby Savannah. She's coming March 2024. She don't deserve that.
Mm.
She don't deserve that. My wife doesn't deserve that. She's legally blind in one eye, the other one's going bad. She may not be able to literally see the world physically. And so I want to show her as much of it as possible. I mean, we're checking off Christmas markets this December. We're going to Belgium for 10
Oh,
days. So
nice.
she gets to see the Christmas market, all she wanted to do. see the Christmas markets in Belgium and Brussels and Amsterdam. Like that's her thing. So who am I? I'm able. I could see clear. I mean, I'm physically able. I can do all the things. And if I don't, shame on me. Shame on me for not finishing what I started. Shame on me for not utilizing the 24 hours that God gives me every day. Shame on me for saying all the things that I do, whether it's a church space or the school space, about being thankful and having gratitude and not acting on it. And so when you start putting, that's I guess my other piece for procrastination, put it out there.
Yeah.
Put it out there because people will start watching, and put it out to the
Ex-
people who matter.
exactly. Exactly. Because then they'll be like, hey, did you do this? You know?
Where you at with that? Otherwise, what was the story of the person who, the boy who cried wolf?
You know what I
Not
mean?
trying to, not trying to be that to anyone and that I love, not the people I care about. In our community, in the mastermind, I will say the folks who we are in building relationship with now, like Ray and I were talking about it the other day. For us, there is no room for procrastination anymore,
Nope.
because what we do or what we say or what we um, commit to is the domino effect for everyone else.
Absolutely.
So if we don't do our part, then guess what? Then the next person's not going to be able to do what they need to do, which is, going to hold and delay back for the next person. And then, it's a whole domino effect.
Yep.
And so for me, I'm like, oh, okay, this is why we got to move past procrastination. This is why we got to get the win. And I think we have to reframe this idea of getting the win as in small wins leads to medium-sized wins, leads to large wins. I think we got to really get that in our mindset of like the small wins are going to lead to the
Dominoes.
medium-sized wins and are going to lead to the large ones. I've been speaking, since leaving my hospital job in 2014, 2015. I went from one or two paid gigs my first year. I was doing a lot of pro bono work.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time went on, and I doubled up and doubled up. And so now these last two speaking opportunities I had last weekend at Indianapolis, 13,000 youth at the youth
Wow.
conference.
Wow.
And that wasn't even on my radar. The crazy part was there was one in LA that I went to at Anaheim in a convention center. And I
Wow.
remember
That's still
sitting there.
big. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna send you this picture so you can put it up in post. But there was this picture of me and my youth leaders that took me to the Anaheim Convention Center, and I was sitting there as a teenager. I said, one day. And so I just kept
wow.
giving up to God, using my voice, using whatever He needed from me. And here I am, 27 years later, got the opportunity to speak at the same conference, getting
Amazing.
my foot in the door. But if I didn't do the small things, if I didn't just continue showing up, if I didn't continue getting the small wins, right? I'm throwing up the W, this West Coast. See, I'm talking about
You
the
know what I'm
West Coast.
saying?
But although Greenville, South Carolina, hey, that's where we at. But I think that's something that we also have to take, doing our own self awareness in our inventory. Is like, yo, you're not where you ought to be, but you're not where you used to be, right? And look at all the things that you've done for yourself and for others. Like count those wins and know that that's proof of concept. So if there's just
Yeah,
one thing that you did that was successful, that affected others, proof of concept.
that
Then you
part.
could do it again and again and again and again. And the only time you doubt yourself is because you letting someone else in your ear, which is
That
why the
part.
faith piece is so important because like he said the other day, God orders your, all your steps, but he also orders your stops. Perspective. So once I started shifting my perspective and started really having that sense of urgency, really being tight with this accountability, and then just really thinking about who generationally is going to be affected and impacted by what I do and what I don't do,
Hmm.
that's when I was like, yo, you got to get, bro, stop playing. And then Jamal messed it all up for us because he said, what you do in your 30s is going to affect how you live in your 40s. What you do in your 40s is going to affect how you live in your 50s. So me and Danielle are like, okay, how are we going to live in our 50s?
Yep.
It's what we do now that's going to
Yep.
affect how we live in our 50s. So if we procrastinate, if we don't get the win, if we don't get the small wins that lead to the medium wins, that lead to the large wins, then our 50s might look just like our 40s, just like our right. Nothing's gonna change. We're not breaking any cycles. Um, So yeah, again, so for me, I think a lot of self-reflection needs to happen. There's that internal work you got to reach in, right? I think, like I said, time and time again, reach in and really figure out all the things and the patterns and the behaviors. That's why I'm big on EQ, big on the assessment. Because once you know how you are and you know how you operate, you know all the different things that activate you and all the patterns that serve you and don't serve you, then you take that into a formula, then you break it down day by day, then have the urgency, have the accountability, and again, have that mindset of like, yo, who's gonna suffer or who's going to benefit. I always use the positive, who's going to benefit generations from now with me from what I do today.
This guy knows how to bring the change. Rye has been such a huge impact on my life and in the lives of those that he's been working with in the school system and on the faith side as well. And as I promised, this is a two-parter, so don't feel bad. It's a bit of a cliffhanger right now, but be sure to tune in next week to get the other half of the conversation. Make sure you're subscribed to me on YouTube here at Getting the Win on YouTube, and then on Instagram, Threads, and Pinterest at Getting the Win Show. But be sure to tune in next week to get more of that meaty goodness, to get the full conversation. And be sure to subscribe to his podcast, the Road to Results podcast. On YouTube, you can find it at R2R Podcast. Those guys, man, he and Ray, they spitting facts over there. Personal development is what they're on, and they're dead serious about it. So be sure to tune in to them, and be sure to follow, both channels. Follow what we're doing, and continue to knock down, whatever your luxury item is. Make sure to hashtag, get on that, and stay on it, and get off of whatever it is that's distracting you. That way you can continue to make the progress you need to make. As I mentioned, a win is a win. You know what I mean? Stack them all. Small, large, doesn't matter. Stack all of them. As Ed Milet always says, self-confidence is you keeping the promises you made to yourself. So keep showing up, keep keeping your promises. Or as Mignon Francois would say, quit quitting. Quit quitting on yourself. And get that win, get those victories. Remember, we are goal getters out here. So I want to continue to root for you. List your wins in the comments. List your wins on IG so we can continue to push each other forward. In the meantime, take care. See you next week. And it is the holiday season, guys, so be sure to check out the merch shop. If you are curious about the shirt, you want one for yourself, you can go to gettingthewingear.com. That way you see this shirt, you'll see a bunch of other accessories as well. We've got hoodies, we've got sweats, we've got all the gifts that you could possibly want to buy for yourself and for your folks to get the message out about being as productive as possible and staying true to yourself. Because the mission of this show is to turn procrastinators into producers. That's why I always task you guys to hashtag get on that. Make sure you're on top of your luxury item. And that way you can rock the gear to remind the world that you are all about that luxury item. You are all about getting things done, getting the goals instead of simply setting them.